Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman or God, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanand Maharaj, to sage Narada, and to all the sages and saints, and as well to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. So today we will be studying Sutra number 6 of the Narada Bhaktari Sutras. It's chapter 1, Nature of Supreme Devotion. Commentary is by my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananda ji, and narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let's get started on Sutra number 6, chapter 1. Yat gyatvo bhakmatto bhavati stabdho bhavati atmaramo bhavati. One more time. Yat gyatva matto bhavati stabdho bhavati atmaramo bhavati. Meaning, having known that the highest devotion in the form of supreme love or parabhakti, the devotee becomes intoxicated with the divine intoxication of bliss, quite stunned as it were. Stabd means stunned, due to the fullness of peace and delights in the self alone. So that is the sacrament or the prasad that a devotee starts to experience. Meaning yat gyatva. So let's contemplate on that, the first two words, knowing which. So in Sutra 4, Sage Narada had used the term labdhva. So it may be of help to go back to Sutras 4 and 5 just to reinforce your concepts. Labdhva means having come upon, emphasize the revelating nature of the supreme devotion. We cannot acquire it, it is to be revealed. It already is there. It's just ignorance has to be removed. So through the purified mind that melts in devotion, then we get labdhva. Labdhva means we acquire it. In Sutra 5, he used the term prapya. Prapya means having attained it. So labdhva, having come upon, prapya means having attained it, denoting the need of self-effort in promoting purity of mind. So we constantly have to keep purifying ourselves, keep working on this holy journey in a dedicated manner, wherein the movement in devotion attains its perfection as parabhakti. So even Sage Narada is guiding us that even in devotion we do need self-effort. And in this present sutra, the emphasis is given to the term gyatva. Gyatva means to know, showing that the path of devotion it enables one to possess intuitional knowledge of the Supreme Self. Intuitional knowledge is called prajna. Prajna comes from the inner consciousness through your self-effort, but it still has to be revealed. So parabhakti, supreme devotion, and jnana, intuitional knowledge of the self, are one and the same. And yet in the different schools of thoughts, this is a cause of big debate and confusion. The bhaktas say, no, bhakti is better, and the jnanis, people who like to read scriptures, say, no, jnana is better. But in the end, Sage Narada and all the wise saints who have achieved self-realization say you reach the same goal, and actually both of them supplement and complement each other. So that is the deeper insight. And though in the initial stages, the disciplinary processes on the path of devotion and wisdom are apparently different, because the means do look different. You're studying here, you're praying, etc. But in the advanced stages, as you advance, go higher and higher, both blend in the same glorious attainment. What is that? That is to achieve mukti or self-realization or revelation of the divine self, and that is within yourself. So following the three basic distinctions between the path of devotion and that of wisdom. So our Guruji, Swamiji, is guiding us that there are three basic distinctions that we need to be cognizant about and follow those. Number one is the qualified aspirant. aspirant has to be qualified. So on the path of wisdom, on the path of jnana, an aspirant must be endowed with six essential qualifications. Just like when you go to college, you have to have a high school diploma to show that you have the basic skills to study the higher studies. Similarly, to be a serious qualified aspirant, you have to have these qualifications on the path of jnana yoga to seriously follow that path. And I have a video already done for that. I have a lot of those on my YouTube channel, and I will add that link below for you, so it's easy to find. But it's called the qualifications of an aspirant. So if you can go through that as well. If you want to be a serious aspirant, it is recommended that you understand what those qualities are, and that link will be provided below, because that pertains to jnana, and right now our focus is on bhakti or devotion. So that's what the qualifications, sixfold qualifications are on the path of jnana. They are viveka, vairagya, shat sampat, and mumukshutva. I'm briefly enumerating them so you will know that, but for the details you can go through the video satsang that I have. On the path of devotion, however, the only qualification needed is the willingness to love God in fulfillment of man's innate urge to love. That urge is already there. We show that through loving our kids and our beloved and dear ones, etc. So that is the urge, but we limit it to that level. We now have to expand it to love God. And once that happens, that is the qualification needed for devotion. Whereas for jnana, as I mentioned, those six qualifications are very important. The second thing is the spiritual discipline. Like in anything, army requires discipline and its students require discipline. When you're studying for an exam, it requires discipline. Much in the same way, your journey to the spiritual path requires a lot of discipline. So on the path of wisdom, you have to do shravana, manana, and nididhyasana, which means listen, contemplate, and meditate. That's the quality that is required in jnana yagya. And in the divine self, there are listening to elevating stories of Puranas and the divine self, imagining the divine self as an entity of Saguna and Nirguna aspects. Saguna means you pray to a deity and you consider him as a god in physical form with you. And the Nirguna aspect means that there is no attribute without attributes like compassion, peace, love, God as kindness, etc. And then there is this Navda Bhakti. So for the Bhakti, there are 9 things that are recommended for us to increase our devotion. So I'm going to take my time on this video satsang, because it's very important we understand the depth of the meanings of what sage Narada is trying for us to asking us to achieve. And this Navda Bhakti is fairly popular in Sanatan Dharma. There are different ways to pray, but there are 9 different modes of devotion. So the first one is called Kirtana. Kirtana means singing the praises of God and singing his glories, bhajans, chanting the mantras, enjoying the musical form of the divine bliss. That's called Kirtana. And the second one is Mantra. Mantra means your japa, your divine name, chanting it mentally or loudly or however you do it. Then you have smarana. Smarana is constantly remembering God, even while you're at work, every few minutes thinking of all his divine miracles, and you are a miracle as well of God. So thinking of all those things. And then comes archana. Archana means offering flowers to God before the deity, or developing spiritual qualities. So it's not just the physical flowers, it's also flowers of your emotions, your love, your dedication, your bhakti. That's what. And then comes the Pada Sevana. Pada Sevana means washing the lotus feet of God. Pad means feet, and sevana means to worship and to help and to serve. So, serving the divine feet. So, how do we do that? Through serving God's projects, which is this world. So, you do selfless service, etc. That is Pad Sevana. And also, when you're praying to your deity, you wash the feet with devotion and love for the bhakti to increase. And then comes the Dasya Bhav. Dasya Bhav is I am the slave, God is my master. And then dedicating yourself to Him with your emotions. The eighth one is Sakhya Bhav. Sakhya Bhav is thinking of God as a friend. As you talk to your friends, you talk to your God in that manner, just like Radha and Krishna, or just like Arjuna and Krishna, and they considered each other as a Sakhya. And then the last one is called Atma Nivedana, which means complete dedication of the ego self to the divine self. So Atma Nivedana, you efface yourself in order to blend into God. So these are the 9 different qualifications, and it's called Navada Bhakti. And finally, on the final stage, the path of wisdom, reason is to be transformed into intuition, and that's the end goal. It's called, that's when you achieve Parabhakti, where you don't argue about everything. You just let the nature reveal itself, let the bhakti grow within you. One must develop Brahmakara Vritti for that. What is a Brahmakara Vritti? Is the Vritti, the thought wave that takes you towards God. Then there is this Vishayakara Vritti, which takes you towards the world. So inside we have these constant waves of thoughts coming in. But our Vritti should be Brahmakara. So the mystic flow of mind removes the veil of ignorance on the path of Jnana Yajna, Brahmakara Vritti, when we are going on the path of wisdom. On the path of devotion, though, when the mind melts with the stream of bhava, emotions and feelings are much more important. Whereas in jnana, it's more thinking, logically, analyzing God. Here you are expressing your feelings through love and devotion. So this flows in the ocean of divine love in the bhakti, and the veil of ignorance is automatically removed. So idea is to remove that veil. We can do it through jnana, we can do it through bhakti, and both are also, a jnana can be a bhakta also, as we said. At that level it's all one and the same, but in the initial stages there are different processes. That's the concept that's important to understand. The ego sense is dissolved completely in bhakti. Dualities are washed away. You become one with God, and you attain the end goal of Parabhakti. So furthermore, devotion and wisdom are not contradictory, as we have already talked about, and great Vedantins like Adi Shankaracharya, that's our lineage, our guru, who started this lineage, and he's an avatara of Lord Shankara himself, and that's why his name is even as Shri Adi Shankaracharya ji. He has expounded both paths of devotion and wisdom, and he's done phenomenal work. Great literature he has produced in the form of Vivek Chudamani and Saundarya Lahari. So much beautiful bhakti overflowing and devotion also. So both can be attained at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive, so to speak. Devotional movement purifies reason. So when the more devoted we are, the more our reason is clarified. So they are complementary. And wisdom is love, and love is wisdom. That's what we have to understand. And in the Bhagavad Gita also, Lord says there are 4 kinds of devotees. Artha are the people who turn to God when they are in pain. They need something from Him. They are experiencing a bitter condition and they want something. Then there are the Artharthis. Artharthis are who want wealth, prosperity, want heaven and earthly glory, those kind of things, material things they want. They are not in pain, but they are asking for more. And then Jigyasus are the ones who are inquiring about what is the purpose of my life, why am I here, where am I going, etc. And Jnani is the one who has immersed in God, and he has attained that knowledge of the divine self. So in this context, Lord Krishna says that Jnani, or man of the wisdom, is the highest, because his mind sees God, or the self, behind all names and forms. So bhakti and Gyan are complementary and supplementary to each other. That's the important point, and the different qualifications that we have discussed. That is, now we have just completed the Yat Gyatva part. Okay, so let's move on the same sutra, where we say matto bhavati, yat gyatva matto bhavati. On the matto bhavati means you become intoxicated, you feel the bliss starting to trickle in. Unfortunately, most people who are into drugs or into alcohol or into smoking, they think they are getting a high, but that high comes with diseases and problems and so many side effects, whereas this comes with only positive side effects. Your bhakti, you are feeling the spiritual high. That's what's called a spiritual high. You feel intoxicated, divine intoxication it is. Doesn't cost you anything, and it continues to grow. And this is one such effect that doesn't come down, whereas with other things, you know the side effects and how we go struggle so much after the fact. But in this case, there is no struggle. It's actually called the bliss of self-realization. It's beyond human imagination, honestly. We cannot even contemplate that bliss. We can only try to walk on that path and experience it. The person who experiences it, he cannot express it. Just like a person who is dumb, he can speak, but he is enjoying the nectar. So when you ask him how does it taste, he can't explain it, he just enjoys it. So similarly, these experiences are to be experienced. Although we do try to do satsanga, saints and sages, they try to explain the best they can, but in the end, it's a personal journey. So just as a person, we said, we become intoxicated, that's called the madhu. And in the Upanishads also, on the Jnana Yagya, on the path of wisdom, the Upanishads say the same thing about madhu vidya. Madhu means honey, and it takes you on the same path but through an intellectual level. And now we get into stabdo bhavati, means stunned. So once you start feeling that nectar through your devotion, through your bhakti, you become quite stunned, because you are experiencing the highest flights of devotion. The mind that once desired objects and was stuck in the little things of the world suddenly becomes illumined. So now there is light, and that lightning flash gives you immense peace, and that is permeated by the divine presence. So what should we desire? What should we long for? What should we endeavor to attain? The very essence of the ego self is melted away. So there is nothing more to attain. You have already achieved the ultimate, which is the Creator himself has revealed himself to you. So therefore, an experience of supreme quiescence arises in the mind. That is important. And then the last two words, Atma Ramo Bhavati. A devotee delights in the self alone. So this knowledge, because we lack the knowledge of the self, we are constantly agitated and constantly trying to find happiness in the world. But the world cannot give you happiness. It can only give you moments of pleasure and pain, and then they depart. So therefore we continue to struggle, and we continue the cycle of birth and death. But here, once you have attained this, you are in the Atma Ramo. You start to abide in your own self. You start to find peace within your own self. You enjoy staying alone, and you enjoy your own bliss, in other words. So it's a very different, very high level feeling. It's not one of sorrow or dejection, it's one of supreme bliss. So the heart of a devotee becomes like butter. It melts when it sees pain. It is full of compassion. It becomes, in other words, divine love. So a sage or a devotee is ever established in the self through this process. though continuing to exist in the world, you continue to do your duties and daily functions, etc., but internally you are totally focused on God, and you let your prarabdha karma or the current karmas continue to function, but you start getting more and more detached from the world process. So I hope you enjoyed this sutra. As I said, and I told you, each sutra is very deep, and we don't need to rush through it. You may want to listen to this sutra again, because it also refers to the previous ones, and each sutra is building upon each other. And the most important thing is to practice it, open up our hearts, and become more universal. Love everybody, accept everybody. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Om Tat Sat.